everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chiara.
Valentina, do we have any news on the number of participants?
I'm going to chat with you, okay?
a construction site next door, so it might get a bit noisy.
All right, so it's 10 sharp, 10 Central European time. I will take the floor from now on. So first of all, good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to attend today the Skillman webinar on work-based learning curriculum development. First of all, I would like to thank the European Training Foundation for their contribution in the organization and implementation of this webinar. And also I would like to thank all our international speakers who took their time today to be with us and to share their presentations today. First thing, as usual, a few tips. As you see from your screen, we encourage all participants to keep their microphones muted and their cameras switched off. Throughout the duration of the webinar, you will be able to send questions and write comments in the question and answer box in the bar that you see at the bottom of your screen at any time. Then all the questions will be collected by our moderator and we will answer to those later during the Q&A session. All right, so my name is Valentina De Vico. I am the communication manager and of the Skillman team, and I'll be moderating today's event and I'll be helping out with all the activities that we're going to carry out later. All right, so let's have a quick glance at the speakers that we're going to have speaking today at this event. So the event today will consist of two main parts. First of all, we will have two representatives of the European Training Foundation with us, who are Stefan Thomas, the specialist in vet policies and systems at the European Training Foundation. He will introduce the European Training Foundation and its strategies. After him, we will have Jolien van Hoeden. Did I say it correct? Yes. We will have Jolien, also a specialist in vet policies and systems of the European Training Foundation, who will share with us some success factors related to joint curriculum development. After this first part, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to ask the first questions and to share your first comment with these two speakers first. Then the second part, we will have two practical examples of excellence of cooperation between TVET providers and work-based learning providers in relation to curriculum development. Those will be addressed by Sonia Barani, the Junior Project Manager of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Germany, and Chiara Pancaldi, the Managing Director of Centoform. After this session, again, we will have a Q&A interactive session where you can share your questions and will be answered those questions. First of all, before getting to the core of the event, I would like to have a first feedback from the audience to see how familiar you are with the work-based learning and to see your experience on the topics that will be addressed today. This is why I'm trying to launch now 3 quick surveys with a few options where you can just click on the screen that will appear right now on your screen and click with the option that is mostly true for yourself and your organization. Okay, I hope you can see it now. It's on your screen. So are you familiar with work-based learning? Let's see. Who is familiar with work-based learning? Absolutely. Just from a general perspective, not so much, not at all. Let's see what you all say. Okay, I see a lot of votes. Okay. All right, so I can see that most of you, the 46% says that absolutely. So you're familiar with work-based learning. So guess what? You are at the right webinar. So at least we know what we're talking about. I have 40% just from a general perspective. A few people said not so much, not at all. Don't worry, we'll be sharing more details later in our main presentations today. So the second one, how often do you implement work-based learning in your activities? So let's vote on this one. Let's see how many of your organizations really implement work-based learning in your activities. Very often, sometimes, not so much, not at all. Here again, I see. Okay, let's finish voting. Very often, sometimes, not so much, not at all. Okay. So here I have very often from a 41%, 32%, and sometimes not so much and not at all. A few of you replied. Again, we will see later with our speakers to get more into this aspect and share your experiences as well. The last one is how crucial you think work-based learning is for the demand-driven curricula. Someone says very crucial, you can say neutral or not so crucial. What is your opinion about it? How crucial is work-based learning in the demand-driven curricula? Okay, let's see the results on this as well. Most of you said very crucial, so you think that it's an important aspect, and I'm very glad to see that because we're going more into this aspect later and we're going to share it with you. All right, so let's cut this. Fine. So before getting to getting the stage to the speakers, okay, let me just interrupted. All right. Just for you to give you a general overview, today's event is held under the umbrella of the Skillnet project, a EU fund project that is aimed at implementing a strategy to develop a large network of covers. Now, as usual, I will try to explain what is Skillman and what we are doing and why we organize those webinars with you all. Again, Skillman is an international network that comprises a very diversified nature of stakeholders. Mostly it's TVET providers, but also individuals, research centers, universities, companies, etc. Now, the network is the main infrastructure around which we try to introduce and develop and exchange also skills. This network was established in 2014, mainly in the advanced manufacturing sector, and now it's expanded very much until today. We count nowadays more than 550 active members that act as ambassadors of the network in more than 84. Right now at 84 countries, but it's continually expanding. Now, the network has, let's say, is facilitated and works together with a number of international associations and organizations. As you see from the screen, ETF, the European Training Foundation, is one of them, and we're very glad and honored to have two representatives today with us at the conference. This event and other events are also facilitated by AER, the Assembly of European Regions, IVETA, Cumulus, and EAPRI. So with these numbers of organizations, we all work together to facilitate cross-networking activities for all of you to exchange skills and to develop skills. Before getting the stage to our first speaker today, I would like to say that we are streaming this event online on our YouTube channel today. Federica, my colleague, is sharing with you the link. So if you have any technical problems following the webinar on Zoom, please go on our YouTube channel and follow the live streaming there. A second very important factor, as always, we value very much your feedback on the quality of this event. So please take 2 minutes of your time to share with us your opinion about the quality of the webinar today. You can do it by scanning the QR code that you see, or just by clicking the link that my colleague is sharing with you, and you can just complete the feedback. As I said, later on we will have a more participative activities. Mainly is going to be a word cloud kind of activity. So to do that, we'll be swifting to another platform that's called Slido. You can check it out right now before we get to the core of those interactive activities. So it's Slido, and accessing the code WBL, or alternatively, you scan the QR code with your phone, you put it on in front of your screen, and you will be directly led to the main page. But this will be for later. I would also take the chance to invite all of you to our Skillman International Forum on the 10th and the 11th of December. Is going to be our main conference of this year. So I think my colleague Federica is also sharing with you the registration link. So please, if you want to join, register with the link that Federica is sharing with you right now. All right, so I see that there's many participants at this point, 62 people so far we have. So I'm just going to give the stage to Stefan Thomas, our first speaker of today, a specialist in VET policies and systems from the European Training Foundation. Stefan, if you switch on your microphone, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Valentina, and a very warm welcome to all of you, also from the European Training Foundation, which is based in Torino. On behalf of the team today, Jolene and my colleague Filippo, I want to welcome you. I see that we have lots of participants also from Asia and Africa, and you might not be so familiar with the European Training Foundation. That's why I would like to take the opportunity to also briefly introduce our institution. Valentina, could you please, yeah, one more. We are actually the only EU agency supporting the European Union as a global actor, and we are mainly working in the area of education, lifelong learning, training systems, and our main objective is to support our partner countries in the neighborhood of the European Union so that they can improve their lifelong learning systems with, let's say, an emphasis on vocational education and training. Next slide, please, Valentina. As you can see here from the map, we're working in the southern Mediterranean, we're working in the Western Balkans, we work in Turkey, and we work in Eastern Europe, and also in Central Asia. The blue countries you see are the member states of the European Union. What you can see from this map is clearly shows that the European Union has an immediate interest in cooperating with its neighbors to mutual benefit for all of us. Next slide, please, Valentina. We support basically two main objectives or goals. We support the EU external relation policies, and we also support the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, in particular goal number 4. Next slide, please. I would now like to present you our 3 main broad areas where we are active. The first one is skills relevance and anticipation. So, for example, we support partner countries in developing skills intelligence systems or mechanisms in qualifications and qualification systems. And that is one area where my colleague Jolene is working. And also we're focusing on aspects that have to do with the transition from school to work. The second area, next slide please, is about skills development and validation. For example, vocational education and training provision. Here we have areas like TVET teachers and trainers. Then vocational excellence, and here we have let's say a common topic with Skillman, and we're very happy about this cooperation. And we also touch topics like key competences. I would now like to go a little bit more into detail in about the second pillar, vocational excellence and innovation, because we have this year, in 2020, we have established a so-called network also of vocational centers of excellence. And Valentina, if you could go to the next slide, please. And in this network for excellence, we focus on 8 dimensions of excellence. We look at lifelong learning, we look at pedagogy and professional development, smart specialization, we look at the latest developments in industry like Industry 4.0 and digitalization. We look at green skills or how to go green and social cohesion. And the area that is maybe most advanced is education, business collaboration and cooperation. And that is one area we're also talking during our webinar today. On the right side, you see all these, or let's say progress in all these areas is not going to happen usually if you don't have appropriate governance and management systems in place. So we also look at autonomy and institutional development in terms of governance, collaboration, leadership, financing, and so on. The next one, please, Valentina. So within our network, we have created a so-called sub-initiative or sub-initiative. There are several initiatives in the ETF network for excellence, and one initiative is focusing on the role of centers of vocational excellence in work-based learning. It focuses on the question of how centers of vocational excellence can support work-based learning. Of course, usually work-based learning is not taking place in centers or vocational schools. Sometimes it does when they have a production unit, but usually, of course, work-based learning, as we define it, is taking place in companies. But schools and centers can, of course, do a lot to support that it's going to happen. This initiative within our network includes a partnership and peer learning with centers of vocational excellence in the Baltic countries, in particular in Latvia, where we have also our main partner, which is the Latvian Association of Vet Providers. And it offers an opportunity for vocational schools in 6 of our partner countries, in Albania, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, North Macedonia, and Moldova, to find out where they stand. So we will do a baseline study with a questionnaire and how they progress over time. So at the end of the project, in basically 1.5 years, we will also do an evaluation. This, let's say, chart or illustration should illustrate what is important to us. And that is mainly how the dissemination of excellence is going to happen. So we will work with these centers of excellence in our partner countries, but it's also important for us that those centers of excellence that are supported by us will also work together, collaborate, cooperate with schools that are smaller, that are weaker in their national environment. So a particular focus will also put on this. We will look how these clusters will develop. And we will look at the, let's say, leading cooperating role of centers of vocational excellence. Yeah? If you want to have an example, we could take Albania. Here we cooperate with a center of vocational excellence that is very active in the area of tourism. It's a leading school in the country. And this leading school in the country is supposed to also support smaller schools which don't have the resources, for example, to invest in curriculum development, in the training of trainers or instructors, to do the matching between schools and companies, and so on and so forth. So that is one aspect that is of particular interest for our project. So that was a small, let's say, excursion to broad area number 2, and then I also want to mention broad area number 3 of the ETF is performance and quality of systems and policies. We have a process called the Torino process, where we look a little bit deeper into the developments of countries. We do assessments of policies. We have a platform on quality assurance where countries can exchange knowledge and cooperate on this topic. We look at governance, of course, financing for lifelong learning. So these are the main 3 broad areas. And that also brings me already to an end of my presentation. I think there's 1 or 2 more slides. What our assets may be, we have around about 80 experts in human capital developments. Of course, we have a deep knowledge of European Union policies, as we are an agency of the European Union, of the methods and tools, so we can also clearly benefit from the member states of the European Union. We have a close cooperation, of course, with our sister organization, CEDEFOP, which is based in Greece, in Thessaloniki. But our main asset is probably our long experience with our partner countries and the knowledge that is resulting from that. Our services, we do reliable monitoring and diagnostics. As I mentioned, that's part of our Torino process. We do evidence-based analysis, we do policy advice and policy coaching. So we are not so much into technical assistance in the classical way. That's it from my side. I'm happy we do that together. I once again would like to warmly welcome all the participants, all those that are listening to us, and I would like to give the floor back to Valentina and the team from Skillman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for your presentation, for your introduction of the European Training Foundation and the amazing work that you do. Before giving the floor to Jolien, I just would like to mention that with Skillman, we're launching this annual online video contest that is going to happen during the International Forum in December. So more details and info will come later, but just to give you a small update on this specific activity. Now it's time for me to present Jolien van Uden, the specialist in vet policies and systems from the European Training Foundation. She will give us a little bit more of an insight. So Jolien, the floor is all yours now. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina, and good morning, everyone. As already introduced by Valentina, my title is like specialist in vet policies and systems, but my background is mainly on curriculum development, instruction, and qualifications. And today, and I think we can go to the title slide of my presentation, Valentina. I would like to focus on what makes joint curriculum development successful. While preparing the presentation, I also realized actually you can answer this question from 2 different perspectives. First of all, why is it important? Why should we have joint curriculum development? And secondly, and I will focus more on this aspect, what conditions or what do you need to successfully develop a curriculum in collaboration between education and industry and enterprise. But just a little bit also on the first aspect. I think joint curriculum development is important because it's a good way to ensure that curricula are really demand-driven, like based on the current, the up-to-date requirements in the labor market. And secondly, to create authentic, engaging learning environments for the learners. If we really talk about joint curriculum development, we should also include the learners. But today I will focus mainly on the collaboration between education and industry and enterprise. I will start with some more theoretical notions and then come to what aspects like what conditions are needed to make joint curriculum development successful, also based on my experience in curriculum development. I will start with the difference between qualifications and curricula. Qualifications are most of the time developed at national level. Curricula can be developed at different levels. Qualifications describe what somebody needs to be able to know and to do when she acquires the qualification, so at the end of the program. This is often stated in learning outcomes nowadays. These learning outcomes are most of the time described at the level of a starting professional. The curriculum is the program detailing the learning activities, assessment, time, where the learning takes place, at school, at the workplace, somewhere else. So it's really the program that should enable the learner to acquire the learning outcomes. Qualifications are often already developed together with representatives of industry and enterprise, and in most countries they are based on occupational standards. And especially these occupational standards are prepared by industry and enterprise itself for VET qualifications. If we can move to the next slide, we will see that curricula can be developed at different levels. At micro level, meso or micro level. And it's important to take this into account because countries differ in their context and also differ in this regard in the space there is to really do joint curriculum development, for example, at school level, or is it more at the national level? There are countries where there's a national curriculum that's very prescriptive and details like how the learning outcomes are clustered, the modules or subjects, and in some cases, even which topics should be taught during which class. But there are also countries where curricula are developed more at meso, at regional or school level. For example, in the Netherlands, you have a qualification profile at national level that defines like the learning outcomes, the core tasks of a starting professional, but then it's up to the schools to develop, preferably, of course, in joint curriculum development together with industry and enterprise, the curricula. So defining how the learning outcomes are clustered, what kind of modules, what types of assessment, where to teach it, like what is taught at school, what at the workplace. And then we have many examples where it's more in between, where part of the curriculum might be defined at national level, but where there's space either within the modules or in certain additional or elective courses to define it together more at meso level. In the end, we also have micro level, which is more like it's classroom or even individual level of the individual learning, especially when we talk about more personalized curricula. So if we move to the next slide, the last theoretical part I would like to mention in this presentation is are the different representations of a curriculum. And it's important to take this into account when you're working on curriculum development. I will not explain all the 6 different representations, but I will mainly focus on the intended and implement curricula, and specifically the written curricula. When we start developing a curricula, we discuss together, we all have our own visions, and we try to come up with a written curriculum. We write down the different aspects of the program, the learning activities, the role of the teacher or the trainer at the workplace, what's the place of the different learning environments, where do we teach what, and we write that down. So then we will have the written curriculum, which is on paper. But often not all actors who need to implement the curriculum are involved in the curriculum design process. So they will get the written curriculum, read it, and make their own interpretations on what they have to do, how they have to deliver the content, how they have to implement the different learning activities. And we call this the perceived curriculum. But there's a translation step, as you can see, between the written and the perceived curriculum. And then what we actually can observe, like the teaching and learning happening in the classroom, at the workplace, that's the operational curriculum. So now, after these more theoretical notions, which I think are always important to have in the back of your mind, I will go to 3 aspects which I think are really important when you work on joint curriculum development. First one is to have clear expectations about different things. First of all, and I've always worked from the education side, so I will probably emphasize it a bit more from that regard, is that it's important to emphasize that VET programs usually prepare for starting professionals, not experts. There's only limited time in education, so we can't achieve everything, and we need to make decisions on what we are able to do, able to offer. Also, the qualifications are often referring to what a starting professional needs to do. Secondly, it takes time to see results of joint curriculum development. We start working, it's still the previous slide. We start working on curriculum, developing the curriculum, and then we start implementing it. If you have, for example, a 3 years program, you might only see the results of the investment 4 years after you started the curriculum design process. Another aspect in the clear expectations is that you need to be clear from the beginning what space is there to actually come up to make your own decisions. So based on the discussion between education and industry and enterprise, the cooperation, how much space is there to make your own decisions? There might be less space in a very prescriptive curriculum than in a curriculum where you can develop the curriculum at school regional level. But maybe there's space in elective courses or modules, or maybe part of within the modules you have space, but to be clear from the beginning what space is there. And the last point here, and definitely not the least, is to be clear about each other's contributions and the use of each other's expertise. Industry and enterprise normally have the best up-to-date knowledge on the needed competences, the workplace, but education has knowledge on what could be the best pedagogical approach. And also here it's important to discuss what can be best learned in which learning environment if you're working with both learning environments. Then we get to the next slide, where I think we have another very important aspect when you work on joint curriculum development, but also curriculum development in general. And that's important to have the curriculum design competences within the team that's working on the curriculum development. Always when I talk about curriculum design or write about the process, I think it sounds very easy, but in practice, it's not always that easy, and it's a very systematic process. Learning activities need to be aligned with the learning outcomes, the assessment activities, and a model that's often used to support the design process is the ADDIE model, which is presented here as well. And it consists of analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. And evaluation is actually something that happens throughout the whole process. We see that teachers might have some curriculum design expertise, but often not a lot, because their programs, like the way they are trained or they develop themselves, it focuses often more on the teaching itself than on developing curricula. So it can be useful to have someone in the team with specific curriculum design expertise who can facilitate the discussion and who can ensure, like throughout the process, the link with the defined learning outcomes. Also based on experience, I know sometimes because of passion for the occupation, for the subject, people want to add more and more and more to the curriculum, which is actually, in this way, the curriculum gets overloaded and it makes it more difficult for the learner in the end to achieve the required learning outcomes. Then we will go to the last aspect. I think it's not just about joint curriculum development, but joint implementation makes it even more successful, because it creates a shared responsibility for the development of a good, meaningful, and engaging curriculum. Also, when you look back, when I presented the different representations of the curriculum, we were talking about the written curriculum and the perceived curriculum. And this is often a critical link. If you work together on the curriculum development and you also implement it together, it's more probably that you will implement the curriculum as you intended the curriculum. But there are other elements here that are important. If you have joint curriculum development and then also joint implementation, it can really support the alignment between the two learning environments. If we talk about a learning environment at a more school context and a learning environment at the workplace. The connection, if you work together, both in designing, developing and implementing the curriculum, you can really take this connection between the two learning environments into account. And it's interesting because nowadays in research, you see a lot of emphasis on how can we better link those two learning environments, that the learner not just experience learning at school as different from that at the workplace, and actually sometimes even acts totally different in the two learning environments. We see this in research coming up as like speaking about hybrid curricula, which focus really on work-based learning, work-integrated learning with a strong connection with what's happening at school and how you can link the different learning environments, talking about boundary crossing, brokers. I will not go into all these details, but it's a very relevant and hot topic. And last thing I would like to mention is that with joint implementation, I also mean the exchange between the learning environments for the teachers at school, trainers, mentors at the workplace, because then with joint implementation, I would assume the teacher also to go more often to the workplace, not just to see the progress, but maybe sometimes do some teaching there as well, which gives the teacher the opportunity to see what is really happening at the workplace. It's a way to keep up to date with the occupational skills and knowledge, which is not always easy if you teach for many years and you're not really working in the occupation anymore. And the other way around for the trainer, supervisor at the workplace to maybe deliver some guest lectures on some part of skills development at school, to experience how it is to teach like a class maybe full of 30 students, which is a different experience as well. So it will create more understanding for each other's roles in the teaching and learning process. And I think I would like to finish my presentation with this statement, like it's not just about joint curriculum development, but also about joint curriculum implementation. Thank you. And
okay, thank you. Thank you, Jolien. Thank you for your outstanding presentation. Thanks for sharing these details with us. If you don't mind, now we take 5 minutes for the Q&A session. Yes, I see that there's already a few questions that have been addressed to our first two speakers. So Jolien and Stefan, we have specifically asked the audience to address the question to either one or the other speaker, so we know better what the question is, who the question is addressed to. So Jolien and Stefan, do you want to take charge of this part, and let's see the question through?
Sure, Valentina. Let's give Jolene a small break. She just finished, and I start with the first question, if you allow. So we have a question here from Bini Fesea, which is about Africa. I mean, she would like to see us to support more Sub-Saharan Africa. And I have a good message for you. We will. We are, let's say, in negotiations with DG DevCo, our partner in Brussels from the Commission. And we will most probably extend our network of currently around about 75, 77 centers of vocational excellence also to Sub-Saharan Africa. It's not decided yet with which countries we will work, but it is very likely that it's going to happen. And if you're interested, please send me an email. If you, for example, have an institution in mind, a center that could be suitable for our project, don't hesitate to contact me. I guess, Valentina, we will share email addresses, and that would be possible. Then Maybe a question for Jolene. I don't know if you have seen one.
Yes, I see that there are some questions about qualifications. I will try to give an answer. I'm not sure whether I will understand it right. But I see a question from Ma Bob. I don't know how to pronounce your name. What are the qualifications for a school to be mobilized for? And from Ulusi Karachas, can we use qualifications on work-based learning as ECFET documents or another? So I think it might be useful to clarify a bit more on qualifications. A development we see in many countries now is that qualification frameworks are developed. Sometimes only focusing on VET or another part of education. Sometimes they're more like comprehensive frameworks, including all levels from general education, VET, up to higher education. And qualifications are included in these frameworks. How these qualifications look like differ a bit between countries, but we often see that qualifications define the learning outcomes. So what does someone need to be able to know, to be able to do at the end? And that curricula are developed based on these qualifications. There are also examples where there are already more information that you would also need in a curriculum in the qualification itself. So there can be modules already defined. And I think it would be good to see in your country whether these qualifications are developed or whether they're still mainly curricula developed and not such clear qualifications. And qualifications are not the same as ECFET documents, but they are often based at ECFET principles and the curricula in countries that use ECFET. The principles also are applied in curriculum development. And in ECFET, we see the principles of learning outcomes, based on learning outcomes, but it's also often used to be able to foster or facilitate mobility. And here we also see one last aspect here is that, which qualifications can we use for work-based learning? It also depends on what type of qualifications you have in the system or what type of curriculum you are developing. Are they more like based just mainly on work-based learning? Sometimes in some countries they are called the more non-formal qualifications for adult learning later on after initial VET. Or are they programs that are more used for initial VET, which often also includes more general and key competences as part of the curriculum? But it's difficult to give a very precise answer because it looks different in different countries, so in different contexts. But I hope I just was able to reply at least to some extent to your questions.
Yeah, maybe I can take one more question from Dr. Diwat Kumar, which is about work-based learning and competency-based curriculum. It's actually not the same. Work-based learning is usually part of a program. We at least suggest that a program should not be only work-based learning, but that it should be combined also with learning at an educational institution, because usually that also permits learners to reflect their learning experiences at the workplace. So work-based learning is one part, very often an essential part, but it's usually not the only part. And a competency-based or competence-based curriculum could, of course, reflect both parts, the work-based learning part and the component that is taking place at the school or in an educational institution. Not sure if we still have the time for more.
Stefan, I would suggest that I see there's a lot of questions for you both, and probably the best way of going through this is just to follow up after the webinar with all the answers to those questions. I see that, there's more coming. Just keep on typing questions and comments in the Q&A box. We will answer to those questions after the webinar, as we don't have material time to do that now. because we need to move on to our next part. Thank you, Stefan and Yolin, for these questions. I see from the comments of the attendees that they have been really exhaustive and really, you know, like extensive answers for those doubts that the audience may had. Now, I would like to move on to our second part, as I mentioned in the beginning. So we saw through Yolin and Stefan, the European Training Foundation and what they do and their amazing job on curriculum development. Now we're going to give two practical examples of excellence, of course, of this topic. So in relation to curriculum development, the first one is given by Sonia Barani, Junior Project Manager of the Italian Chamber of Commerce of Germany. Sonia Barani, are you connected?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can. Thank you, Sonia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Valentina. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Sonia Barani. I am Junior Project Manager at the Italian Chamber of Commerce for Germany. I would like, first of all, to present you our organization and then also to present you a best practice about how we delivered a common demand driver curriculum within a European project that we coordinated last year. Next slide, please. So who we are and what we do. We are the Italian Chamber of Commerce for Germany. We are a German-based bilateral organization, and we were founded in Germany in 1911. We are part of the network of the Italian Chambers of Commerce abroad. There are 78 chambers of commerce, Italian Chambers of Commerce in the world. And our main aim is to foster economic relations between Italy and Germany. We have a network of about 400 member companies in Italy and in Germany. I have to say many of them are metalworking companies. And we provide every year about 500 companies with business development and internationalization services. In the last year, we have been very active in coordinating and managing European projects, and especially in the programs Erasmus+, COSME, and Interreg. Next slide, please. Since 2012, more or less, we have been also very active in the promotion of work-based learning. We are part of the organizing board of the Didacta Italia Fair. It's the major Italia trade fair dedicated to innovation in education. We promote the German dual system as best practice in work-based learning in Italy. I don't know if you are all familiar with the German dual system. It is a very good best practice, I would say, because in Germany, after high school, students can decide to go to university or also to start a professional training path. And this professional training path, so during 3 years, they are hired by a company and they also go to school. So this is a very good option for students who don't want to go to university. We also participate in vet mobility projects. So last year only we hosted about 150 Italian vet students in Germany for an internship. And we think this is a very good occasion for them to experience the benefits of work-based learning. I didn't write it, but we are also part of the Skillman networks for vocational excellence. Yeah, and then next slide. I would like to present you now best practice. We coordinated the MEMEVET project in 2018-2019. It is a sector skills alliance for mechatronics and metallurgical for sectors industries. First of all, so just for you to have some information about the project, I would like to show you a very, very short video. Valentina, can you start it?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Next slide.
Oops.
So, as you could see, we were 15 partners from 5 countries in Europe, Spain, Germany, Italy, Slovakia, and Bulgaria. And we started from a common problem that means that it's not so easy for students and workers in Europe to get their knowledge and their qualifications recognized in a foreign country, even if we are in Europe and we think it might be easier. And especially we decided to focus on this problem in the mechatronics and metallurgical sector. What did we want to do? We would like to foster mobility of workers and vet students in the European countries. And how? First of all, we wanted to develop a curriculum for complementary education skills that can be recognized all over Europe, and also to develop an e-card to ensure the recognition of competencies. Next slide. So why? First of all, because there is a lack of coordination among European countries. That means that vet systems are not at all similar in European countries. And also qualification might not be recognized if a person is working abroad. So there is a need for a curriculum which is close to the needs of the companies, because in many cases, so the needs of the companies, which are changing also very fast, are not really responded by the curriculum that there are already in the European countries. We needed to tackle the problems impeding free mobility of students and workers, to foster recognition of competencies at European level, and also to boost employability in the sector. So this was our bigger problem. Next slide. So what we did, first of all, we assessed the needs of the sector's company. We carried out a survey, which was responded by more or less 250 companies in the 5 countries. And we also conducted interviews with 25 big players of the sector. So we asked them, what is important for you? So what you think that there are the main skills that your workers should have. So no matter if they come from your country or from another European country. So this was the first thing that we did in order to understand, so which are the competencies that are important for the companies in Europe. And not only the hard skills, but also, and I would say also mostly the soft skills. So for example, English proficiency, or also capability to adapt to new context, or teamwork, or also I don't know, capacity also to be independent. And then the second thing that we did is to draft the report analyzing the status quo of vet systems in the 5 countries. So how are the vet systems in our 5 countries organized, and which are also the skills that vet students develop during their professional training path. Then based on these 2 reports, so on the assessment and on the report on the status quo, we developed pilot training modules for vet schools and university that were tested both from university students and also from vet students. 10 of these vet students had also the possibility to carry out a short-term mobility in another European country, also for us to know if the new competencies that they acquired are useful or not in another European country. And then at the end, we developed an e-card to upload soft and transversal skills. That means that through this e-card that looks like more or less like a Europass document, the companies all over in Europe can have the proof that this student or worker developed some competencies. Next slide. So at the end, what we did. All 4 project partners, vet project partners, integrated these training modules in their own organizations. So there are students in these 4 vet institutions that are now that are now using also this pilot training modules. Then we signed 30 agreements with best provider and stakeholders in Europe that agreed to also integrate our pilot training modules. And now Spanish and Bulgarian certification agency are discussing the possible adoption of our MEMEVET modules. Of course, it's not so easy to have some modules integrated in the VET system of a country, because of course it is a very long path, but we are still doing advocacy work in order to have our modules integrated in, first of all, in the 5 countries and then all over Europe. So next slide, I am now done. So thank you very much for being here today. And if you have some questions, I will be here later on, or you can just also write me an email.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for sharing with us your experience as the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Germany. Of course, after your presentation, we will have Chiara Pancaldi also sharing with us her experience from Centoform. And after her, we will dedicate 10 minutes for the questions addressed to these 2 speakers. So we will check your questions in the Q&A box that you see in the bottom bar. So please add your comments and ask your questions, and we'll be reading them later. Just a quick reminder, this event is fully integrated in the umbrella of the European Vocational Skills Week. Now it's time to give the floor to Chiara Pancaldi, the Managing Director of Centoform in Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Chiara Pancaldi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Now
Okay.
It's your turn.
Okay, good morning to all. I'm Chiara Pancaldi, the Managing Director of Centoform. Centoform is a VET provider. We operate in Emilia-Romagna region since 2001. Today I will share with you our experience about collaborative training networks, a pilot experience that we have realized in Emilia-Romagna region some years ago, 2 years ago. Next slide, please. The experience was related to an Erasmus Plus K-Action 2 project called Co-Train. The main aim of the project were to reinforce dual training and WBL in all their forms, testing new approaches and methodologies to be made sustainable, and innovating technical, vocational, and training curriculum through strong business education partnership. There were 5 partners in the project. The project coordinator was CEPAG, a study and training center in Belgium. Then there were 2 coach partners, one from Austria and one from Germany. The one from Austria was OEBF, that is a Veteran Research Institute. The one from Germany was INAB, a training center operating in different regions in Germany. Then there were 3 pilot partners, because the first aim of the project was to try to transfer the experience of collaborative training network from Austria and Germany to Italy and Belgium. So the pilot partner were 3, 2 from Belgium, IFAPME and CEFA, and 1 from Italy, that is Centoform. So today I will share with you our experience inside this project. Next slide, please. First of all, what are collaborative training networks? One company provides vocational training in collaboration with 1 or more than 1 other companies. The ratio is that companies must be complementary in terms of processes. In this way, companies train apprentices together based on the complementarity of their activities. And there is an intermediate organization that is, in some cases, a chamber or a VET center that provides support for the accreditation of the training. Next, please. Collaborative training networks allow that activities of the collaborating companies cover the complete occupational profile. Youngsters are trained in companies that are complementary, considering the entire production chain. Youngsters are trained with a higher level of expertise in also very specialized tasks that not all the companies can realize. Another benefit is that small and medium enterprises have the opportunity to be recognized and officially valorized their training capacity. And last but not least, co-design in the definition of the individual training plan is valorized. So it's very important, the construction, the design of the path. Next one, please. Our experience in the context of this project. Centroform developed 12 co-trains pilot experience in the mechanical supply chain. The pilot were realized in the context of an IFTS course for mechanical designer, that is an EQF 4 course, targeted to 18-24 age. Why we have chosen this course for our pilots? Because we realized this IFTS course since 2009. It's a quite successful course for us. Emilia-Romagna region is the international leader in mechanical design and production. There is a permanent increasing demand of this professional profile in our region. And there is also an excellent employment rate of participants after the course, that is about 90%. Next, please. The training program of our IFTS in mechanical designer consists in 800-hour course. 480 are in class theory or lab, using software of mechanical design. 20 hours are dedicated to an individual project work, and 300 hours to training in companies. The course is spread over 8-9 months from November to July, and usually we realize 30 hours of training per week. There is a compulsory attendance of 70% of the total hours of the course for the admission to the final exam. At the end of the final exam, participant acquire the certification of mechanical designer, that is an EQF 4 qualification. Next, please. Which are the core skills and competencies related to our IFTS for mechanical designer? First of all, read and understand mechanical drawings, knowledge of materials used and their performance reaction, ability to conceive mechanical design, ability to realize project from the idea to the final product, respect quality and safety standards, and realize prototypes, reverse engineering, and 3D printing. These are the core skills and competencies defined at national level for the IFTS in mechanical designer. Next, please. Here, there is an example of our construction of a collaborative and training network. We have two companies. One is Bonfiglioli Engineering and another one is Solid Energy. So one student starts his internship in Bonfiglioli Engineering, looking to solid modeling, design concept of packaging machinery production, using SolidWorks and PDM enterprise software for data management. Then the students goes to Solid Energy. That is a company very high-tech because they are very expert in design concept research, especially based on 3D printing. After this period, the students come back to Bonfiglioli Engineering, having acquired more details on 3D printing. And this improvement of 3D skills was very important and very interesting for Bonfiglioli. This collaborative and training network create also a collaboration between the two companies through the students to help Bonfiglioli to implement some new processes inside the company, because they would like to introduce 3D printing. So they include the students after the collaborative training network in their staff, and with the help of the other companies, they implement these processes inside the company. Next, please. So the ratio of this experience is that business education partnerships are fundamental for a smart and inclusive skills ecosystem. This is the opinion of Francesca Bergamini, that is the managing director of Emilia-Romagna Educational and Training Services, and that you will listen after in a short video that present this particular co-train experience. Here we have a short description of the two companies that collaborate with us in this experience. So the first one, as I have said, is Solid Energy, is a small company, but member of the 3D group, that is the most important Italian partner in 3D digital innovation. And they are very highly specialized in 3D printing, reverse engineering, dimensional model certification, digital measuring, ergonomics analysis, and so on. And the other one is Bonfiglioli Engineering, that is a member of the TASI group, that is the largest group in the world uniquely focused on leak testing, measurement, and inspection. Companies with different expertise that collaborate together to give the best skills to the student. Next, please. Which are the advantages with collaborative training networks? First of all, there is a project-centered approach, the definition of a collaborative strategy, competencies are the main outcomes, and there is an interdependency of organizational systems, and the co-evaluation of the achieved skills and competencies. So a strong collaboration between each organization to give to the students the best competencies. Next, please. We have also an impact on regional vet education system in terms of sustainability of collaborative training network methodology in technical, vocational, and training programs, for example, ETS, but also in the programs of EFP. There was a co-design of training programs and support services as career guidance, teaching, assessment, and evaluation with companies as essence of the ESF calls for proposals in our region, and also a valorization of business education partnership and collaborative approach in the regional employment strategy. Next, please. For us, there is the video, I think, now.
It is loading, yes.
Okay, so here you have the video with the protagonist of the collaborative training network that I have described before.
Mi chiamo Francesco Teodori, ho conseguito il corso a 100 da Centoform di disegno e progettazione industriale. Come esperienze lavorative non ho avuto a che fare con industrie o comunque progettazione industriale. Ho imparato tante cose che mi sono state utili e grazie a loro sono riuscito anche a trovare un modo di conseguire questo stage presso Bonfiglioli e ho conseguito questo stage qui di 300 ore, è andata bene, quindi mi hanno assunto e quindi andiamo avanti qui che mi sta piacendo molto.
Noi chiediamo molto nella formazione, proprio perché è difficile entrare nel mondo in cui operiamo, conoscere le nostre macchine. I processi di formazione interni ed esterni sono di grande valore. Per questo il co-train ci è sembrato un'occasione per conoscere realtà intorno a noi, mondi anche nuovi e utilità, quindi opportunità che si possono aprire anche nei nostri uffici e nelle persone che collaborano con noi.
La collaborazione con Train è stata molto utile perché comunque ho avuto modo di imparare tramite Solid Energy macchinari nuovi, tecnologie nuove, molto all'avanguardia.
Mi chiamo Vito Zaccaria, sono italiano, sono nato a Cento di Ferrara. Sostanzialmente Solid Energy nasce come azienda che si occupa di trasferimento tecnologico. Tantissima attività nasce nel settore della stampa tridimensionale. Abbiamo dei modelli del settore automotive, abbiamo la possibilità di stampare con dei materiali estremamente innovativi che all'interno hanno anche fibre di carbonio. Abbiamo poi anche qua alcuni componenti per il settore medicale. In sostanza quello che si fa è estrapolare da una TAC tridimensionale, da un'ecografia, il modello tridimensionale dell'organo del paziente e sostanzialmente andare a stampare il componente in scala 1 a 1, addirittura con le stesse consistenze di un cuore vero in questo caso, per poter valutare il problema e fare una simulazione preoperatoria. Quindi i ragazzi hanno potuto veramente mettere mano alle tecnologie, agli scanner tridimensionali, alle stampanti tridimensionali di tutte le tecnologie e hanno potuto quindi seguire tutto l'intero processo dalla A alla Z e portare a casa un risultato concreto che poi effettivamente abbiamo visto essere piaciuto all'azienda ospitante.
Particolarmente utile, che potrebbe essere conveniente per l'azienda Bonfiglioli, è la scannerizzazione 3D. Faccio un esempio, questo oggetto che magari non abbiamo il modello 3D in CAD, tramite uno scanner viene proprio rilevato tramite dei punti, delle scannerizzazioni, l'oggetto viene riportato tramite un software nel computer e dopo viene diviso in più sezioni in base alla geometria dell'oggetto e si può creare una copia esatta tramite software SolidWorks.
Il ragazzo stesso si è messo a utilizzare questo scanner e lui stesso ha poi ridisegnato lo stesso componente e abbiamo visto che effettivamente ha risparmiato molto tempo nella sua progettazione e anche nella qualità dello stesso.
Le tecnologie avanzano continuamente ed è difficile mantenersi aggiornati, fronte normativo, fronte appunto tecnologico, sono qualcosa che corrono molto più velocemente di quanto forse noi riusciamo a poterci stare dietro, per cui a volte questi momenti, questi spazi in cui due aziende si incontrano e hanno il tempo di parlarsi e di approfondire quel che fanno l'una e quel che fanno l'altra, spesso aiutano.
A livello nazionale l'attenzione al sistema duale c'è tutto. L'Emilia Romagna, se non altro per la ricchezza del sistema delle imprese e per un sistema formativo solido, viene comunque guardata come esempio. La logica di costruire i percorsi delle persone, i percorsi formativi in più setting formativi deve essere per tutta la filiera e chiaramente soprattutto per quella filiera di formazione tecnica e professionale. Dare competenze per essere lavoratori ma prima di tutto cittadini contraddistingue il nostro sistema educativo e formativo. Chiamare le imprese a contribuire alla costruzione delle competenze che servono a investire sui giovani è assolutamente una politica che non guarda solo alla crescita economica ma guarda allo sviluppo coeso.
Mi chiamo Francesco Teodoro.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chiara, for your experience from Centoform, the Emilia-Romagna region in Italy. I see now that we have really a lot of questions that are addressed to Sonia and to Chiara. We have right 5 minutes, let's say, to answer those questions. before moving on and wrap up the session today. So Sonia, if you want to go first, so we give a little bit of breath to Chiara that just finished the presentation, we can start to answer some questions. Sonia, those for you.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. Here I see a very interesting question. Are the EU trained students not accepted in EU only or in other continents too? So this is a very interesting question because actually, so there are no actual barriers in Europe. So you are free to work in another European country. So you can do it. So the problem is not that they are not allowed to. The problem is that, for example, if we think at a German company that would like to hire a mechatronics technician, this company would prefer very probably to hire a mechatronics technician coming from Germany because they are sure about the competencies and the skills that this mechatronic technician has, because they know how the VET German system works. Of course, if they receive some applications from, let's say, an Italian or a Spanish graduated, they are not sure about what they learned in their professional training path, for example. And for this reason, it's let's say more difficult for a Spaniard or for an Italian to be hired as technician, let's say, in Germany than in his or her own country. So the problem is really that if you have a system that enable the company to know for sure which kind of skills and competencies this graduated from another European country developed, it is more easy it is easier for everyone to also to get a job in another European country.
Okay, thank you, Sonia, for your answer. I would say that all the other questions can be addressed in a follow-up time after this webinar, so we have more time to address the questions and give an exhaustive answer. I would just go over one question for Chiara, and I know that also Elena Romanini is connected to support Chiara in answering those questions. Hello, Elena.
Hello, good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Elena. I would suggest we take just one question for that was addressed to Chiara to Centoform, and then we move on. What do you say?
Yes, of course. This is a question that Chiara managed directly in the design of the process. So I think that it's not completely related to the building of the CTNs. So please, I think that she will be the right person to give an answer to the panelists and attendees.
Okay, yeah. So I see many questions. Chiara, do you want to take the lead? And
yeah, about the question of Samuel about the characteristics for entering this course. Students need to have a high school diploma or to have attended a 4-year course. And then there is a sort of different assessment if they have not a diploma in entrance. If they are able in this assessment, they participate to the general selection related to the course and can attend the IFTS course. So, or they can have or an high school diploma or to have attended an high school course for 4 years, but in this case, there is an additional selection in entrance. I don't know if there are other questions for me.
There are many questions actually, Chiara, so we won't be able to answer those questions at the moment because we don't have enough time to answer all the questions, but they are all collected by our moderators and that will be answered in a follow-up step following this webinar. So don't you worry, every questions will be addressed after the webinar today. So thank you, Chiara. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Elena, for your support. I would say now that we move to our final part of this webinar today, just to wrap up all the presentations and discussion around the curriculum development topic. This is why now you see on your screen the platform Slido. that we invite you to access to do, let's say, an interactive activity of a word cloud, just to close the circle of today's topic and to have interaction from you as well. You can either connect at Slido or with the access code WBL, Work-Based Learning, WBL, or alternatively scan the QR code and you will lead directly to the main page. Okay, so now let's see that together. All right, so this is an activity that we would like to do. So we will do it now, online, live streaming, we will do it all together. So we will just answer a question that it will become a word cloud with all your contributions and suggestions. So you just access the platform and write what, according to you, makes joint curriculum development successful. You can type many words, you can type just one single word, you can have more options. And while you contribute to this activity, we will see all the keywords appearing on the screen. The more a word or a concept is voted by, and the bigger the word becomes on the screen. So it's also a nice activity for all of us to see what are the main factors that make joint curriculum development successful according to the audience, according to you. We see at this point that cooperation is one of them because it became bigger. So it was voted for by more than one person. People are still voting. We have many inputs that we could eventually discuss further. Cooperation, collaboration are still the main key factors that, according to you, make joint curriculum development successful. This is indeed a very good way to see what you all think around the topic that we have discussed today and to have your contribution as well. So please type the answer and the options and the keywords that you find most relevant around this question. What makes joint curriculum development successful? We see competence from the curriculum designers, private sector involvement is becoming bigger, so it's being voted by many people. Involvement of more parties, exchange, it's moving all the time. I cannot keep track. Skills need analysis, partnership, soft skills, transparency, guiding, commitment, practice, teamwork. Skills need analysis. Yes, we said it. Guiding, territorial involvement. There's so many more keywords and concepts that everybody's suggesting now. We have many votes going on. Let's just give a few seconds more before wrapping up the session today. Market relevant skills are acquired, demand-driven approach. Well, this is a good point, a good starting point for a further discussion over this topic. We are receiving many inputs from all of you. Thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you very much for voting on this specific activity. I will keep the poll active, so you can still vote and you can still give more inputs to answer this question: what makes joint curriculum development successful? In the meantime, I will go back to our main platform. I think up to now we have come to the end of this session today. We have heard the presentations from the speakers. We have heard your voices as well by giving contribution to this specific activity of the word cloud, and we also saw through the surveys your experience and your familiarity with the topic. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that we are live streamed on our YouTube channel, Skillman.eu YouTube channel. All the materials will be uploaded on our main webpage, Skillman.eu, but I will get back to you all with a follow-up email answering all the questions that were posed by our attendees today. Again, this is the link to the feedback form. So you can share your evaluation of the quality of the webinar. I would just remind all of you that our next event is going to be the Skillman International Forum 2020 on December 10th and 11th. So that will be the International Skillman Forum. And now, before wrapping up, I will just let Filippo Del Nino from the European Training Foundation and Giovanni Crisona, the president of Skillman, to close today's session. I want to thank very much the European Training Foundation for co-organizing this event today. Filippo, are you connected?
I am. Can you hear me?
I will just leave you the stage to wrap up this session together with Giovanni and come to a closing of this event. Thank you, Filippo.
Thank you very much. My name is Filippo Del Nino. I work for the European Training Foundation. I work in the same project Stefan described this morning, the ETF Network of Excellence. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I hope, just a second. Abi, mi stacchi il telefono. Sorry, we are teleworking due to COVID. Sometimes we had some technical problems. I would like to thank the speakers today and all the participants for the contribution in the question and answer session. There were many interesting issues that we will address following the end of this webinar. I was particularly interested by the two presentations. I would say even after 20 years working in this sector, in the education sector, I mean, innovation is so strong that every time you have new learning opportunities. I think both presentations today presented very interesting elements. As a general conclusion, I would like to highlight how when we start discussing about private sector involvement in education, at least when we do it as European Training Foundations, we go to countries where the involvement of private sector is quite limited. Well, we start with a clear division of responsibility. So we ask the private sector to work on the occupational standards, to say what are the needs of the economy. And we ask them to work together with the providers, with the educational side, to develop their qualifications. And then we leave the responsibility in the hands of the Minister of Education, the providers, to actually develop the program and the curriculum. This is a very simplified vision, which is a very good starting point for having the private sector involved. However, I think Jolene presented very clearly what are the huge added value of having the companies involved in the implementation. The expansion of work-based learning mechanism throughout almost all countries now. Many countries have established systems. Many countries are running pilots or they're starting to implement work-based learning systems. So I think the involvement of companies in dual education or work-based learning systems is helping these further cooperation, not only in developing qualifications, but really in working on the curriculum. In addition to the three levels mentioned by Jolene, the national, the regional, the meso level, the micro level, I think that the first example introduces another level, which is the transnational level. This is very, very interesting. There are several examples. I mean, this was about mechatronics, but there are other examples like the plumbers, where there's a transnational organizations which provided transnational qualifications. I think that the need of this cooperation is because companies tend to speak the same language as sector organization as well. So for them, sometimes it's easier to work together on curriculum more than rely on more complicated policy instruments like the European qualification frameworks or other policy instruments that you have in different regions worldwide. These two are not in contradiction. It's just sometimes companies need to work more on practical terms. And so the European qualification framework does provide a framework for recognition, for transparency, for transferability of competences, but still sometimes companies rely more on their own sector organization. So I think it's very important that we look at the cooperation with the world of work also when we go further than the national systems. For the second examples, for us, the European Training Foundation is extremely interesting because the economic context of the countries we work with is dominated by small and medium enterprises, often micro enterprises. So the introduction of world-based learning systems is quite challenging. We often have to rely to compromises. So students go to companies trying to get a majority of the competences foreseen for that qualification, but it's very difficult to find a company who can provide the whole package of the competences and learning outcomes. That's because companies are really small. I mean, what the small companies is in Europe, sometimes in our partner countries is quite a medium big company. So we're talking about companies between 10, 15 people that have to host students and try to provide as many competences as possible. So I think the model presented is really interesting. Of course, it's complicated to implement, and Emilia-Romagna is we know it is a hub of excellence. So in terms of cooperation between world of work and education and in technical education, but I think the model is really important to be disseminated to all countries where the majority of companies are small, because that's where you have challenges implementing world-based learning. Just to pick up one small detail, and then I pass the word to Giovanni. I think one interesting element is the joint evaluation, in particular for the transversal skills, what we call skills for the future. These are often situational competence, so you may have a student which fit well in one environment and demonstrate some competence like taking initiative or being a team worker, but the possibility to actually assess the students in different working environments will provide the possibility to really have a much more accurate assessment of his transversal competence. So this is a very interesting element that I've picked up from this model, and that I would like to keep it for me and to use it in my work in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Filippo. Giovanni, you want to close today's session?
Thank you very much to all colleagues and to give me this possibility to make a final word on this meeting. That was very interesting, and I think not only full participated by really outstanding expertises, and very important examples about what we can produce together. Thank you very much to the European Training Foundation and to you that have brought in the debate this very important work that you are doing. I see also that our colleague of the Skillman network brought very interesting examples to the attention of our large network. What I noted that there are a lot of participants, even from African countries, from Pakistan. I've seen a lot of friends in the list of in the chat names, and I think that we have to review a little bit our approach to make a more balanced participation in the speakers list for the next time. We will have a small break in the organization of the webinars, like we have discussed in the past days, to prepare properly the 2020 Skillman International Forum. All the participants here are, of course, invited to join the forum and to contribute. And when we will restart with this series of webinars, I suppose we will have some surprise in the organization. We will include other interactive moments during the sessions. And I think that regarding the contents that we have discussed, it's important for me to always state what there is behind. And one keyword that I was getting in mind during all the presentations and the excellent presentation about, for example, the curricula development was the excellence, because nowadays everybody are discussing about excellence, but what is the meaning that we give to this word? I think it's important to share this meaning and to find an agreement, because in our side, for example, what the Skillman network wants to bring on is not a meaning of excellence in terms of competition, where you have the best and the most powerful organization that implement excellence, that want to join the debate to show what they do. No, this is not our intention. We think that it's relevant to put in connection the best experiences with the weakest. But for example, also poorest situations doesn't mean that are weakest. You can have a good idea or intention even if you don't own the tools, or you don't own the possibilities to do it. So we need to put in connection these different situations, and we need to talk about what is VET. VET is a system, and we see that we need to collaborate with the companies, but what is the meaning that we want to give to this collaboration? In my understanding, we need to understand the connection, the cooperation among the VET and the industry as a homeostatic system. And if you take out something, one part, you go, you have results in the other part. And so you need to make a balance that keep all the system together. So we think that this concept that brings them to our concept of centers of vocational excellence. We have here today 2 examples of our centers of our COVES. I think that this concept must be kept very large, including other countries, including other partners, and taking examples from the other countries, and not thinking that we have the knowledge, we have the know-how, and we transfer it. No, that's not the approach. So considering excellence as a sustainable goal, I think is the takeaway in my mind for this meeting, and putting together all these tools that we have seen and solutions for leveling up the excellence and the quality, not to create more competition or to exclude someone. I think that this is also the introduction for the next Skillman International Forum. So Valentina, I have ended with the wish that we will see all the participants to join also the forum. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. See you next time.
Ciao, bye bye.
Ciao a tutti.
Bye bye.